And yes, this is going to be the first official one of the tournament. I believe it officially started on Monday, but this was the earliest that people were able to schedule races together. I don't know if they're sitting through all 2 or 3 at once here tonight, though. But do you know if that's the plan?
I do believe that it's all 3 if they can do it.
That's excellent.
Oh yes, it should be very excellent.
All right, and they're off.
So we see Bob go into Bubble first, and Charlieboy go into Flash. You'll see a lot of times in these rando races, folks will go to Flash first or Quick first because they're generally pretty straightforward stages. You don't really need a lot of utility items to go through them. Not a lot of dangers. There's no pits to fall in Flash, so it's usually a very safe first bet.
And Bob, coming into Bubble stage here, is finding that the Joes are actually Buster immune and not having another weapon. That made it quite difficult for him to clear some of those gaps there, but luckily he was able to use a damage boost kind of cleverly to get across there.
Ooh, and Bob performing what I think you're very familiar with, the Buster-only zip there, or attempting to perform the Buster-only zip there in Bubble stage. Looks like he didn't quite get in far enough. Do you mind explaining how that works, Cammy?
So basically, to perform the Buster-only bubble zip there, you want to get under that. As soon as you start falling off of that ledge, you want to start pause buffering, which will start enabling. It will enable you to move farther under that ledge than normally you could. And as long as you get far enough in that you'll be in the floor on the next screen, you'll be okay. What you want to do is you want to just make sure Mega Man faces left, and then don't move after your face is left. It will zip to the right past all those nasty spikes and fish and shrimp and stuff.
Oh wow, Charlieboy looks like a little menu came up there for a second, but he has got one crazy Flashman fight going on right now.
A very aggressive Flashman. He's just really excited to be in his own stage.
Bob taking it very slow across these platforms. You got some shrimp spawns over here in Bubble stage, and that can be extremely dangerous since shrimp can sometimes appear out of nowhere and just knock you into a pit.
Yeah, in any platforming section, shrimp and crabs and any of those that automatically respawn and can respawn anywhere are really dangerous.
All right, well, Charlieboy looks like he actually opted to go to Bubble second. So briefly, our runners are in the same stage. And Bubble Man also in his own stage.
Is this even randomized?
Yeah, two Robot Masters in their own stages? Come on.
Bobdedbuilder got into Bubble Man with very little health and have to take that death, but imagine to recover.
Yeah, the good part is, or the good thing is, he made it into the boss chamber, so he didn't have to start from way back in the water. Charlieboy executing that zip that we saw Bob fortunately miss earlier. Yeah, Stuffin' Things in chat is pointing out that very lucky Bob didn't soft lock. There is a little caveat when fighting in Bubble Man's chamber right now with the randomizer, and that is if you should be facing right when you beat the boss. Otherwise, there's a possibility you can actually soft lock the game. All right, and Bob making his way through Woodman stage. Generally another stage that's fairly easy to get through. You see that Bubble is pretty soft weak to Buster too. Charlieboy taking some of that sage advice and using an E-Tank before he dies to Bubble. It looks like that was a very wise decision. All right, so I think that's 2 down for Charlieboy, and while Bob makes his way to the second Robot Master, Woodman stage here. Charlieboy picking Air third. Oh, I hope there's a lot of Mega Man X fans out there. Ooh, unfortunate death for Charlieboy. Those frogs can also be a pain. All right, Bob, finally making it to the boss chamber here. We're gonna see who's in Woodman's chamber.
Inside. Airman and Woodman.
Ooh, and another unfortunate death there. Airman can be pretty tricky too. His jump can be random. He can jump closer or further. He can jump after a couple of shots or 4 shots. And he can also jump very quickly at you. So
I believe his maximum number of shots is also randomized. I've seen him go as far as 6.
Oh, that was really smooth on Charlie's screen, avoiding that crab in midair, using the pause strats.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of buffer strats, menu strats in this so far. Would one of you mind explaining exactly what those are?
Well, basically when you pause this game and then when you unpause it, it more or less resets your state. What that means is for about a frame. Uh-oh, Charlieboy taking a death there, fishing for some.
Oh no!
Got it. But it basically, if you're falling, it resets your velocity to 0. Well, of course you're falling, but it's almost like making you stand for a frame, except I don't think you can pull off a jump in that frame. But basically, it'll reset your trajectory. It stops your falling velocity, which means you can actually repeatedly stop that and get further and further than you normally could while in the air.
Thanks for that explanation. And while that was happening, we saw an unfortunate game over from Charlieboy. Those crabs were getting the better of him there. One of the most dangerous enemies, in my opinion, in the randomizer is the crabs. They're very unpredictable in where they can appear sometimes, and they can be just over. You can be over a pit and just kind of get hit and fall right in.
They're very predictable in my experience. They always appear right in the middle of your jump arc when you're jumping over a pit.
You can always trust them to be there to hurt you. Alright, well, Bob making his way through Quickman stage. This is another stage that you'll usually see a lot of runners do first or second because, again, there's not a lot of obstacles in terms of pits or anything for, someone to fall into or, be kind of juked by the randomizer. So, having him go to it third, pretty predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Charlieboy, meanwhile, opting to go to Metal Man stage instead of going back to Air stage. I think he wants to find some more weapons or utility before he takes on those crabs again.
I know I tend to do that a lot. I won't say you get spooked by certain stages after you take that death on them, but it doesn't feel good.
Oh no, Charlieboy has found a fan man at the edge of that pit. Oh my gosh. One of the most trolly things I feel like this game can do to you is put fan men right before pits. I don't know. I mean, how many times have you encountered a fan man before a pit?
I don't know. How many times have I had you generate a seed? No, it happens more often than I would care to admit, and that is the one and only enemy that you really just don't want to encounter on a spot like that. It's amazing how the randomizer tends to set itself up for you so successfully.
Now, before we get too far into this randomizer, For anybody who doesn't know what this randomizer is, and while the players are kind of going through these stages, these Roadmaster stages, Easy Danger, Cammy, would you guys mind like going over exactly like what this is and what it randomizes?
Everything, basically. Enemy placements, weaknesses, and invulnerabilities are random. Boss locations, weaknesses, and invulnerabilities are random. The music is random. Palettes obviously are random. And boss AI is random. So you end up with things like, you were talking earlier about Air Mass Jump, which can vary. Or that really aggressive Flashman that we saw, as opposed to the slightly less aggressive Flashman. Or the Huggy bosses, which is such a nightmare that I don't want to explain what Huggy bosses means.
Yeah, we saw that Flashman.
Huggy bosses, essentially, they hug your hitbox, and it can be very difficult and incredibly frustrating to try to get out of their hitbox, because when they're so close to you like that, not only are they consistently dealing damage, but they're actually so close to you that you can't even shoot them. So they can be incredibly challenging. You don't always get one, but when you do, it's usually Bubble, and boy, is he surprisingly tough.
Oh goodness, that Bubble man.
Bob is now discovering some crabs, by the way.
A couple of other things that the randomizer randomizes is actual weapon effects, including sound effects and behaviors, as well as item 1 and I think item 3 effects. I could be wrong about item 3.
I believe right now it's just item 1, if I remember correctly.
Okay. So item 1, it'll have a random speed, which could be 0. Which really changes things up when it comes to trying to zip.
Oh, I felt so bad right there for Bob. He had health right in his sights, and
it's almost the same thing that happened to Charlieboy a little while ago.
It's almost the exact same thing. He just was a little bit too eager and went right into a pit. I tell you what, these crabs can be a nightmare for even experienced players of the game.
Yeah, their health values are randomized. When they're like 1 or 2 shots, they're not too bad. But once they get to be about 5, suddenly these crabs are quite menacing.
Yeah.
It looks like Quick is not Buster weak, so Charlieboy's gonna be taking the E-Tank. Very smart. Don't take the death, take the E-Tank. I haven't really seen anybody hunting for boss weaknesses yet, though. Sometimes that can be very advantageous, especially if you're dealing with a boss that's relatively slow in their pattern, like Heatman, or maybe even Air,
well,
or
Charlie
Wood.
was fishing for a weakness, but he only tried Air, and he found that it tinked right off a Quick Man there. I think he wanted to avoid Heat because of having to charge it. Figured Buster's already working, probably, so I guess he stuck with what was working.
So that is 4 down for Charlieboy, and I think Bob might be on his 3rd.
Bob taking another death there. That is a fun Heat Man.
Yeah.
One that he doesn't travel all the way to you. It's kind of strange, and he throws his flames very erratically.
Heatman is very slow, and I feel like, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like the slow Heatman, the slow burn, as we like to call him, is worse than your normal Heatman or your fast Heatman.
Absolutely worse.
I think it depends on how far he's traveling when he moves. If he's going all the way, the slow one could be really a pain, but if he's only going about halfway like he was this time, I think it's not too bad. It's just, it's more of a suspense machine than anything.
Ooh, Charlieboy's got to be careful because he hasn't made it to the checkpoint yet.
Charlie's making quick work of the dogs there using Heat. Meanwhile, Bob is coming into Flash, which, as was mentioned before, is usually the first stage, but in the randomizer, it doesn't necessarily matter as much.
Oh, fun. Bob's discovering drills. Oh, now you see what Bob just did there. He's testing out some weaknesses here on these crash barriers. If we didn't explain it before, the crash barrier vulnerability or weakness is actually randomized as well.
Yes, and it even has a chance to be Buster. It could be anything, which is why Bob is testing Buster first. It looked like he was testing Heat.
I'm interested in how people tend to test those out if they just wait until they're forced to, or... Cause I usually end up doing that in Heatman.
I think it really just comes down to opportunity. If I've got a lot of weapons and I go to a stage with a crash barrier, I might test it. But a lot of times, and a lot of players will save that testing for, sometimes for Wily too, but where there's an extra life in an E-Tank.
Right, where it's right in your path.
Charlieboy doing some item 2 strats here.
Bob playing it safe, he went and grabbed the E-Tank up above. It requires a little bit of backtracking if you can't get through the crash wall, but sometimes it's more worth it. I think it's faster to lose the time there than it is to lose the time taking a death. Especially when you have
absolutely.
bosses coming up.
Charlieboy making the quick decision to go for an E-Tank before Airman landed on him.
Nice.
And you see Charlieboy using all of his E-Tanks, but I think it was worth it.
Bob is having a very interesting flash fight here. He did not use the E-Tank, surprisingly. But Flashman is moving very erratically there. I've actually never seen him stay so low to the ground and move so fast, so erratically. That's actually very interesting there.
His color scheme is pretty fun. Alright, Charlieboy returning to Airman stage now. I think he feels that he's got enough utility with him now that he can actually make it through.
That color palette is actually pretty tough because it makes it difficult to actually see Flashman's health.
There is the occasion where you can get a black health bar, an all-black Robot Master color palette with a black health bar, and so you can't actually see what damage you're doing to the enemy.
Yeah. I was watching, I think it was Charlieboy yesterday or earlier today, and he got an all-black Quick Man with a black health bar.
All right, Bob is entering his 6th stage, and I believe Charlieboy, this is also his 6th stage, so our runners are pretty close to each other right now. Looks like Bob is attempting a zip here in Metal stage. Now that's an interesting thing about item 1. The item 1, because its behavior is changed in terms of how long it stays on the screen or how fast it moves, you may or may not be able to use item 1 to do the classic zips in this game.
Bob's struggling here to get himself on his item 1 before it's too high up.
I think I cut my losses.
Yeah.
He's out of weapon energy, so he's going to have to move on the old-fashioned way here.
The old Buster only route.
Meanwhile, Charlieboy making quick work of Heatman there. Heatman really cooperated with him there, giving him very short patterns between his movements there.
Alright, he gets equipped with Silver Zip. And he finds item 1 from Airman stage. Alright, and we see him going to Crashman as his 7th Robot Master. I think a lot of people generally save Crash or Heat for last because these stages are the ones that benefit the most from having utility. So finding the utility in the other stages is like, you know, trying your luck and finding the utility is a lot better for these stages.
Oh no, not the bunnies.
Yeah, Charlie's encountering some bunnies there on the second screen, and they love the ladder guard, especially in Crash stage. They're one of the biggest reasons that people will typically save Crash for later, because either Leaf like he's using there, or Metal, or even sometimes Flash are going to be your only friends against them. They will hug the top of that ladder, and there's not much else you can do about it.
Yeah, what are some of the worst enemies that you guys have encountered in Flash? Or in Crash, I'm sorry.
Bunnies and shrimp, for sure. Those are the only ones that really bother me. Everything else, it presents a challenge the first 1 or 2 times I see it, but once I figure it out, it's not really the same the second time around, I would say.
Yeah.
But the bunnies and the shrimp, wow, are they consistently hard.
Definitely the bunnies on those rooms with the trolleys going around on the cords. Those are... Because every single room they land right on top of the ladder.
Charlieboy executing that Crashman zip, what a lot of people don't realize is that the first enemies that you see in Crashman stage are often, if not always, the enemies that will be on the climb part with the moving platforms. So if it's a bad enemy, it might be advantageous for you to actually zip past those points.
Yeah, those 3 screens that are being skipped there, it's quite advantageous to skip those, especially in the randomizer. We see shrimp here too, so there's a chance that there may have been shrimp there as well.
There's a chance there's a shrimp on all of these screens of the crash climb.
Oh, Flyboys.
Your classic duck fists. Alright, Bob is coming up to the fanboy part that actually got Charlieboy when he was in Metal Stage, so we're gonna see how he handles this. Oh, and getting some lucky health there.
I think this is his second time through here.
Ooh, it looks like Bob's gonna contend with the same issue that Charlie did earlier here. Hopefully he's... Well, yeah, he's gonna go for the pause buffer, but he's gonna be in for a surprise.
Yeah.
He's still trying, which I don't blame him. I have made that jump once with a fan guy there, but you gotta jump from the absolute last pixel possible and have just perfect pause buffers. Otherwise, it's not going down your way.
Yeah, you kind of need to know it's there already.
All right, we got us some wood. I'm sorry, Cammy. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. You took the words right out of my mouth. Charlieboy here fighting some wood.
He's got 1 E-Tank left, and smartly taking it. Searching for a weakness, too. Looks like he's just using air to get him down, but
nasty
taking that body
damage
shot
by wood there.
Yeah, a lot of people also don't realize how much contact damage wood does. His leaves do less damage if I remember correctly, so probably want to take the hit there instead.
Yeah.
Wood being weak to wood. the horror.
So, in the randomizer, apparently Woodman can become Metal Man and be weak to his own weapon here.
Sometimes Flashman can become Quickman. Alright, Bob fighting Crashman in Metal Man's boss chamber. Metal Man's boss chamber actually being one of the scariest with some bosses, including Crash, Wood, and Air, just because of the fact that you're fighting an enemy who is hitting you with these weapons that you're kind of not used to dealing with on a moving platform. And Charlieboy coming to classic Space Monkey Heatman, no problem whatsoever.
Space monkeys are probably one of the most satisfying enemies to encounter. He's getting attacked by one now, but that is incredibly rare. You gotta be very close to them when they're on their rise.
Like, in terms of some of the horrifying Heatman first rooms I've seen lately, that was just a dream.
Absolutely agree. Heatman, the first room in Heatman can have all kinds of horrible spawns, causing immense amounts of lag.
Yeah, lag not being your friend when you're trying to do complex platforming.
Charlieboy using some item 1 strats to get over these walls. And it looks like, luckily, item 2 was in another stage. And so he's able to just item 2 across this pit and skip all the Yokus, so some good luck there. All right, Bob deftly moving around these laser beams, these quick beams. And I believe that is the last Robot Master for Charlie. So we'll be moving on to the Wily stages here. Metal Blade one-hitting these Joes.
But really slow, and it looks like maybe only one shot at a time. The number of Metal Blades is one of the things that can be randomized. Its speed, its direction, and the number you can have on screen.
As well as the amount of ammo that each shot uses. Because normally when you can fire more than one, you can fire more than one without even losing a single chip of energy. But a lot of times I find when you can only fire one, it's one per shot. But not always. Sometimes it has the original consumption rate.
Bob having a little bit of trouble with this bouncy quick. Charlieboy able to use number 2 in that first part of Wily 1. Sometimes that's not possible just due to the fact of different enemy spawns coming through, but looks like got pretty lucky with this seed. And Bob finishing off Quickman, I believe that might be his last Robot Master as well, if I was paying attention.
Charlieboy looks like he's trying to do a zip here.
I don't think the item 1s are going to work for those zips.
Yeah, it looks like they're moving a little slow and they don't last long enough necessarily.
Oh, I was wrong. I was wrong.
Alright, Bob's coming
25 in a row bonus is respectable.
I think Bob is going to be very happy with this stage.
I think so too. This has got to be making him smile.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's safe to just keep moving throughout this stage, but those monkeys can surprise you sometimes. So I understand his trepidation. Because they will just drop down from that ceiling on occasion.
Yeah, it depends on where those monkeys spawn. Sometimes they spawn on ceilings where when they come off the ceiling, they just come right off into nowhere and despawn. But other times, you're right, they'll come right down off the ceiling and they will give you a bad time.
It seems like they like to do that right when you have gotten used to the fact that they'll just disappear off the top of the screen. There'll be
so
one
before it gets too
like that
far,
one at the edge.
we were gonna guess the color of the dragon, play the little game we like to play, guess the color of the dragon, but it's been we're about to come up to the dragon right now, so it's pink. That is an almost neon pink.
Hot. Ready for a night out.
Alright, so the dragon is immune to the buster, so Charlie's just going to be going through the list here, through the gamut, trying to fish for the weakness. And you saw him fire the leaf shield to the right. That's because it's another randomization of the weapons. Sometimes it will fire the opposite direction that you press it in. Oh, wow, that's...
He saved it! Whoa! I was so scared he was going to fall off there if he hadn't have done those pause buffers.
I
thought he was done.
He was over the edge. That was an incredible save there. Wow.
Leaf shield, I feel like one of the more dangerous weapons to have to use on the dragon because of the nature of the weapon.
Right. You have to be moving basically in one direction or another.
Oh, it looks like Bob has discovered the weakness to the walls. And that is air. Bob is giving me slight heart attacks as he's going over these pits. I'm just watching him going, please, don't fall in the pit. Charlieboy going up the first ladder in Wily 2 here. I believe that's because he did not have enough item 2 to get across to the other ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he wasted it all. Well, not wasted, but he used it all in Wily 1 there, and he wasn't able to recover quite enough of it to get it all the way across the gap. So he took the safe route up top. Forfeits an E-tank, unfortunately. But he made it. And that's
Also,
the thing.
I don't those crash barriers are ones that a lot of people use to test the item weaknesses for crash barrier, while at the same time getting that E-tank. So I think he still doesn't know what the crash barrier weaknesses are.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen him use it yet.
No, he hasn't gotten any of them yet. But don't worry, once we get to everybody's favorite stage, he's gonna have to figure it out. Decent fight with metal there by Bob.
Looks like Charlieboy is opting to get this health. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No problem.
Alright, we're coming up to Pico Pico. One of the most dangerous bosses, or one of the bosses you really should not underestimate. Do you guys know how much damage a body shot from Pico does?
No, I don't.
A lot.
The biggest
A lot. I think a lot is the correct answer.
Yeah, I think that's the official answer from Capcom.
I feel like if you're under a third of your health remaining, you might want to E-tank here.
I absolutely agree, and a death here is far worse than a death on another Robot Master, because you end up at a halfway point in the Wily stages. There is no boss corridor or checkpoint.
Okay. Charlieboy unfortunately is out of the airman
He needs
weakness,
E-tank.
but...
He needs E-tank right now, I would say.
Oh!
Ooh.
That is rough.
Well, that is. I just hate to see. Oh, he had no E-tanks. That's
Right.
and that's why.
That's unfortunate. Well, now
And he's out of his weakness.
Luckily, he can sit here and farm the weakness, but being sent this far back is very, very hurtful. The stage is not physically very long, but the vertical climb at the end of this hallway, even though it doesn't feel like it takes very long, boy, does it ever add up on the timer when you have to do it over and over.
Getting very fortunate with these drops right away.
I wonder if he's going to take this opportunity to test those crash walls this time.
He's past that area, actually, so he can't.
Oh, yeah.
In the meantime, Bob is
It's just
over on
interesting
Crash
that it's the
stage.
same weakness as the crash walls for Pico Pico.
Here on the crash stage where Bob is, he's opted to do the 3 screens we were talking about before that Charlie actually managed to skip with that zip that he pulled off. And luckily he's just dealing with the shot men here. They're not the worst enemies that you could find on these screens. And he also has his item 1, so he's able to make fairly short work of it.
Yeah, one of the least offensive crash platform screens that I've seen recently.
The best platform screens are empty.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
No lag, no stress.
All right, Charlieboy.
Side.
Charlieboy doing something a little different here. He's starting off using the softer weakness to Pico Pico on the slower Picos so that he can handle those a little bit easier, and then switch to the hard weakness for Pico so that he can take care of the fast ones. He's got to be very careful, though.
He had a very close encounter there, but he managed to turn himself around just in time. And he pulls off the fight
That's dead Pico Pico.
fairly effortlessly. I think
No
that's a
one-
better strategy, because I believe after the halfway or so point, the Picos do move slightly faster. Or maybe that's just what I feel because of the music getting to me. But it's always the more stressful part of the fight, so to use the stronger weakness then is... It's at least calming, if nothing else, more reassuring that you're going to get through.
Yeah. And no one likes Pico Picos of the... like, no one wants to have to redo those Pico Picos, though, so... it's a good thing he actually switched to doing the soft weakness and then the hard weakness. It's a strategy I definitely would recommend. Even if you find a hard weakness to Pico Pico, switch to see if you can find the softer weakness, because if the hard weakness takes a lot of ammo, you're gonna end up with the harder, faster Picos at the end.
Charlieboy had no trouble getting that, finding the weakness to the crash walls.
Oh, and we've got crabs in one of the worst places to have them.
Bob making it to the Wily stages.
I'm really digging this color scheme in Wily 3.
It's always so nice when the water is actually blue.
Yeah, it was treated with some chlorine before Guts moved in.
You know, Guts is into construction, so probably has some landscaping people who can take care of that sort of thing.
Bob's making his way through Wily 1 here.
Oh, and Guts Tank being weak to Buster. Such a fortunate thing.
Yeah, that's always the nicest, when Wily bosses are actually vulnerable to the Buster, because usually that's the first thing you're going to end up trying anyway. Randos are, for the most part, somewhat Buster-friendly on average. You just end up bustering a lot through stages.
Yeah, I would say that for easy mode, definitely. For normal mode, I think you do a lot more weakness hunting. But yeah, for sure, Buster is used a lot in these. And the
Boy doing them item 3 hops up the ladder. Basically, he just places it on the wall, gets a little bit above it so he can land on it, and then he jumps. You can actually jump off the screen, as you see him doing here, and grab the ladder on the way up on the next screen. And I believe he's holding down to warp himself up a little bit higher on the ladder after the screen transition there, too.
Charlieboy executing the screen wrap here to get past the spike screen. Now, one of the things that's randomized about level layout in the randomizer, there's not much, but there is these holes in the ground in Wily 4. And so that hole that you're normally used to having over the spike pit could be anywhere along the ground. So it's pretty dangerous to go across that just, randomly. So Charlieboy using that zip to get past it, very smart.
Common strategy is also to use item 2 to clear the spike pit, because you never know which one of those floor pieces are going to be a hole. So using item 2 is another safe way if you're not sure how to zip up that.
There's no enemy on the right here to traditionally damage boost off of, so Charlieboy is waiting. Ooh. Oh no! I think he wanted to jump, but the propeller dude there went up a little bit too fast. He was gonna damage boost off of him and run across the spikes, but unfortunate death there.
Oh, I'm not sure what went wrong. Oh, he did.
I think he's game over into refill.
That was an intentional game over.
So this is a change made to the randomizer, where you can game over and you'll restart with all of your weapon energy on the same stage you died on, as opposed to being sent back to Wily 1. Just make sure you don't hit stage select.
I don't believe.
I don't believe
the game would reset you either. I got 4 game overs on Wily 4, and I did not get sent back. If you hit stage select, it might send you back. I don't know.
Yeah, a stage select will send you back, but a normal game over, if you just hit continue, will keep you on the same Wily stage. Although one thing that does change about game overs in the randomizer, a very, very nice quality of life addition that Duckfist made. Oh, by the way, Duckfist, the creator of the randomizer, he made it so that E-tanks persist over game overs, whereas in traditional vanilla Mega Man 2, if you game over, you lose all your E-tanks. All right, Bob is making his way to Pico Pico. And he's got way more E-tanks than Charlieboy had, so hopefully he'll have an easier time with this. Oh my gosh! Again, another repeat. Yeah.
You may wish to use an item 1 there to extend the time before he starts falling. That way you can reach the guy.
This is one of the most frustrating set of screens in the game, I would say. Absolutely. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but this is a very frustrating set of screens.
It can be very frustrating, yeah.
You can have you can have all kinds of different enemies spawn on those screens, making lag. I've seen bunnies on that screen that make it almost impossible to move. So yeah, it can be extremely challenging to get past this screen in the randomizer. All right, Bob needs the E-tank right away. And he does.
Yes.
Looks like Bob is hunting for another weakness to Pico.
I didn't catch what he damaged Pico with the first one. It must have been
Bubble.
air.
He was using Bubble.
Oh, was it Bubble? Okay. He's opting for air, which is the stronger weakness. And as long as he doesn't miss, I believe he does have enough to do this. He's still got another E-tank left. He should be okay. Charlieboy's coming up to everybody's favorite boss of Wily 4 here, the Boo Beam Trap. He does know the weakness to the crash walls, so this shouldn't be too bad. He's fishing for a direct weakness to the Boo Beams themselves to see if he can bypass the crash walls, because sometimes you can. If it's Metal Blade or if it's Leaf Shield, then usually you can just bypass them completely and not even worry about it. Which is a very nice feature of the randomizer, because something has to give with this boss. This is the most notorious boss of the game, I think.
And Bob defeating Pico, making his way to Guts. Gotta go through that nice chlorinated water.
Charlieboy taking an E-tank while he's continuing to fish for a weakness, which may well be Buster. I don't think he tried it.
Has he not tried Buster yet? That's usually the first thing I end up trying.
Me too, because obviously I play Buster only, but I mean, it's surprising when it is, and it is in fact Buster.
He is probably kicking himself right now, because you always hate when you use every single other weapon but Buster, and then come and find out it's Buster, and you're just like, oh, I should have tried that first.
Alright, and he's through Wily 4. That is the toughest stage of the game. It should be relatively smooth sailing here, depending on how the refights go, but of course the machine, having a random weakness and random strengths, could easily still turn the tide of this match.
Yeah, so one interesting thing about the machine is that it has a 50% chance of being weak to Buster, and if it is weak to Buster, then both phases are weak to Buster. If it isn't weak to Buster, then it's going to be weak to 3 different weapons in the first phase, and then 3 different weapons in the second phase. Or in the second phase, 2 of those weapons will be the same weapon, 1 will be different. So we'll see what happens when it gets to the machine.
I just have to say, I really love that outfit on Flash there. It almost reminds me of somebody from Tron.
I was saying that earlier. I really like the color scheme on Flash. Some of the bosses' color schemes can be really funny. I think just the other day, Mega Kyle was playing a rando where Woodman had no eyes. His eyes were completely black.
Yeah, Woodman seems to always have completely blank eyes, either completely black or completely white. Found a Metal Man with
sneaking behind Airman there with very good timing to whip around to the front there. He didn't take any damage doing it. Sometimes it's a very dangerous move, but very advantageous for you to pull it off. Get them extra shots in.
We got a music change. So one of the things about the randomizer is that there is a constant music playing for the refights instead of the traditional music and then boss fight music. However, Metal Man, when he goes to jump, normally he'd be triggering something to switch the direction of the platform in his boss chamber. With the randomizer, it's a little bugs out a little bit and may switch to another music track.
Just
Oh
adds
wow,
to the
I didn't know
randomness.
that.
Yeah. I don't think it's intended, but it's still pretty fun.
I'd honestly be sad to see it leave.
I would too.
No,
I would
that's-
actually.
It's awesome.
At this
I'm
point,
gonna
I
have to
think
force
it's a
him to
feature.
jump next time. I've never done it.
All right, Charlieboy getting one more Robot Master left before he has to go to his machine fight. Ooh, he is taking a little bit of a beating from Crash here.
He is. Luckily, they don't have the conveyor to deal with as well. That extra hazard really changes up that fight for the worst usually. But no real problems here aside from the beginning of the fight. And it looks like Wily Machine is indeed vulnerable to Buster.
Alright, so this should be easy dispatching of the Wily Machine. And we are going to come to the alien fight. We also like to play another game called Guess the Color of the Alien, because the alien's head and the alien's body can be different colors. Sometimes crazy different colors.
I'm voting for a yellow alien.
I was gonna say orange.
I'm going to go with Dr. Wily made the alien avatar after the dragon, and just going to go with hot pink.
Looks like Charlieboy's attempting to go for a zip here that can bring him all the way to the boss door. But he ran out of item 1, unfortunately. So he's going to use Flash instead to freeze these little acid drops or whatever they are. Because unless you do a particular setup on the first 3 screens where you're falling, these things are timed out perfectly to hit you as you run through. So using Flash avoids that. And luckily, Flash also runs out during this little intro here for the alien.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll be able to change weapons immediately. Oh,
Yeah!
purple
I don't know.
alien. Now,
Nice.
is there a correlation between dragon and alien colors, or did that?
I know that's just coincidence. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
All right, now the alien can be weak to anything, and it looks like he's weak to air. And Charlieboy quickly dispatches the alien with a couple of air shots,
GG.
and he finishes the SRL race with an official time of 47:36. Some weaknesses to alien are better than others. Meanwhile, here Bob experiencing the third spike screen here in Wily 4. It's a doozy.
Yeah, he was here a second ago, and it looked like he had it, but he stepped off into the spikes. I'm not quite sure what happened.
All right, Bob making it past.
Bob is playing it very safe through here, and it's really hard to blame him. Everything and anything can go wrong, and usually will in there, as we saw with Charlieboy struggling on those screens earlier.
Oh yeah, those screens are no joke. Again, even the most experienced players can have trouble with those screens depending on what enemies spawn, if any enemies spawn at all.
Well, that's what we love about this randomizer so much. When the entire game is governed by RNG, then your skill level is almost meaningless at times. It's the great equalizer.
Bob going through weapons on the boo beam traps just like Charlieboy did, neglecting Buster, even going right past it to the second page. And there he finds Buster.
Looks like both of them took a second after trying out Quick Boomerang, because the random sound effect for Quick Boomerang was the same sound effect as an enemy taking damage. Be a little confusing.
Bob with the item 3 strats to get up there.
Was he out of? No, I still had air shooter.
Alright, Bob makes it through Wily 4. Heading on to the refights and the alien.
Another benefit of the randomizer is after you finish it, lets you see all the boss weaknesses, so you can kick yourself for using a soft weakness when you had a strong weakness.
Sometimes that just annoys me too, because the hard weakness will be heat weapon and it's a charge heat, and you're like, why would I want to try that?
Right.
Alright, so they're fighting Tron, or Bob's fighting Tron right now.
Unfortunately, Flash did not work against him, and it's one that lasts for the entire ammo count of the weapon.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be quicker than that and only last for a few, or even only use a set amount.
Yeah, in the randomizer, sometimes the Flash weapon, Time Stopper, can work a lot like Flash Stopper from Mega Man 4 and use only, like, you know, a small amount of energy per use. But it looks like in this particular seed, the Flash weapon does end up using all of the ammo in one go.
Speaking of Mega Man 4, that's the game that the track we're hearing right now is from. I believe this is Dustman's theme. Because the randomizer randomizes all songs, including the credits.
As a Mega Man 4 runner, I applaud these Mega Man 4 editions.
I am heavily biased towards Mega Man 4, so I also applaud this.
Mega Man 4 is good.
Alright, there's consensus.
Well, it's got the best Buster.
And the best slide.
Yes.
True.
Ooh,
Oh,
taking
Bob,
unfortunate death to that heavy contact damage by Woodman. That is something that you never can underestimate, because it seems like no matter how much I think he's gonna do, he always does more.
What you're saying is completely true. He always seems to do more. His contact damage is so much, you really have to watch out for those body shots.
Taking a Metal Blade in there, made short work of him that time.
Oh, Quick Man, weak to quick, as we are now finding out. Only takes 3 hits with quick, or 4 hits with quick just to dispatch him.
Nice. Quick Boomerang and Bubble Lead tend to be 2 of my favorite weapons in the randomizer.
I can't agree with the Bubble Lead, unfortunately, because Bubble Lead's behavior can change quite a bit in the randomizer, to the point where it can be frustrating to use it sometimes. Sometimes it can act like a normal bubble, or sometimes it flies straight up, or sometimes it just goes down and you have no idea what it's doing. So
I find more often than not, versus in the vanilla game, it's a lot easier to hit stuff with Bubble Lead, just so you generally don't have to get as close. But it and Quick Boomerang, like you were saying, can have vastly different arcs as they leave the Buster.
Alright, Bob is going to find out the machine is weak to Buster, and he's going to be very happy about this. The machine is another thing you shouldn't underestimate either. I generally like to save at least one E-Tank from the machine, just in case it's not weak to Buster, and it might take you a little bit of time to get through.
See him popping off that E-Tank right there.
All right. Bob making his way to the alien. I think he is just going to run through these acid blobs.
Looks
Number
like
one was not very kind this seed, so... Alright, Bob is going to try some of these weapons out on the alien.
trying the vanilla weakness.
Yeah, just like in the vanilla game too, every other weapon will actually heal the alien, so you really want to find that weakness.
Yeah.
Hesitating there on air, but discovers, yes, indeed, air works.
Which is funny because he just refilled his air in the Wily machine.
Yeah, I saw that. Very fortunate. All right, Bob
GG.
dispatches the alien, and he finishes second with an official SRL time of 56:57. So GG to both runners. That was a pretty great race. Had a little bit of mishaps here and there, but definitely exciting race. So I think these guys are good to go for a second race tonight, so that we can actually finish off this particular match. So stay tuned. And, you know, while you guys are waiting here for these guys to get set up for the second race, you guys should go ahead and, you know, give these racers a follow for putting on this show. They are, you know, doing this in their own time and you know, loving to do this. So give them a follow, show some support.
I'm gonna throw the follow the runners thing back in the chat. Oh, there it is.